Hello everyone, Miss Sinclair here. I wanted to make a video explaining your homework for today. I know we went over it yesterday, but I think this is a pretty difficult topic. So I thought I would make this video for you to do the 2 questions. That's your homework for today. So if you're having any trouble, you can watch the video, but make sure that you still hand your homework in. Okay, so the topic that we're doing is piecewise linear functions. And like I said yesterday, the name piecewise linear function, it kind of explains what we're talking about. Linear means that we're talking about lines, and piecewise, what I really want you to focus on is that word piece. So we're going to be graphing pieces of lines. I know that's a little weird, but pieces of lines. So let's take a look at this first one. So you have a piecewise linear function. What that means is you have 2 different lines that we're going to be graphing. The first line that I highlighted in orange is 2x plus 6. And we're going to graph that line when x is less than -1. We get that from the part I just circled. So when x is less than -1. So let's think of some numbers that are less than -1. -2, -3, -4, -5, and I can go on. Let's look at the second one, -4x plus 8. Well, we're going to be graphing that one when x is greater than or equal to -1. So greater than or equal to -1 is going to be -1, and then we're going to go greater. So greater than -1 is 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, the first one doesn't ask us to graph. It just asks us to evaluate. So we know that these numbers in the parentheses mean our x values. So I have an x of 2, an x of -5, an x of 0, and an x of -1. Now, the hard part about the piecewise is you have to decide which line am I going to put these numbers in. So if we look at this first one, I know they're not labeled, but I'm going to label this A. F of 2, do I want to put f of 2 into the orange one or into the yellow one? Which one deals with when x is 2? Well, that's going to be the yellow one, because the yellow one is when x is greater than or equal to -1, and 2 is in fact greater than or equal to -1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in, -4, I'm going to substitute 2 in for x, and then you could put that right into your calculator, not into the y equals, just into the regular screen. We're just trying to do -4 times 2 plus 8. So when you do that, you get 0. So f of -2 is 0, okay? I'm going to call B f of -5. Okay. -5 is my x value. So do I want to use the orange or do I want to use the yellow? Which one deals with when the x is -5? I'm going to do the orange because the orange is when x is less than -1 and -5 is less than -1. So I'm going to plug that in. Pop that into your calculator, and I get -4. That's the y value. So if I were to go to graph this, not that I am graphing this one, I would graph the point -5, -4. All right, let's look at the next one. We'll call that C. F of 0. Is 0 less than -1 or is 0 greater than or equal to -1? 0 is greater than -1, so I'm going to use the yellow, -4x plus 8. So -4 times 0 plus 8. Pop that into your calculator. Again, not the y equals. The y equals is when we're graphing. This, I just want the answer. So I get 8. Okay. And then let's look at this last one. We'll call that D, f of -1. This might be the trickiest one. Is -1 less than -1 or is -1 greater than or equal to -1? It's going to be the one that's greater than or equal to -1. So we're again going to use the yellow. So -4 times -1 plus 8. And again, put it into your calculator and we get 12. Okay, excellent. Let's go to the next one, the only other one. This one we're going to graph. So this is what we did yesterday together in our Google Meets class. So again, we have two different lines. We have the line that is 1/2 x plus 6, and we have the line that is greater than or equal 4x plus 1. And now let's look at our x values. So the 1/2 x plus 6 is when x is less than 0, okay? So less than 0 is going to be -1, -2, -3, and so on. The one that's 4x plus 1 is when x is greater than or equal to 0. So that's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay. So let's actually graph it. So like I did yesterday, I'm going to use my calculator to get a table. So let's first do the one that I highlighted in orange, 1/2 x plus 6. So you're going to go to your calculator, you're going to go to your y equals, and you're going to type in 1/2 x plus 6. It's been a while since we typed fractions. To type a fraction, I'm just going to write this on the side here. You're going to press the button alpha. Then you're going to press the button y equals, and then you're going to press the button enter. Alpha, y equals, enter. That brings you to a fraction. So I'm going to type in 1/2 x plus 6, and then I'm going to look at my table. To see the table, it is second graph. Second graph brings me to the table. And remember, I only want to graph things that are less than 0. So I'm going to scroll back because I want to graph things less than 0. So I'm going to go all the way back to -10, and -10 is 1. I don't want to graph hard points. I don't want to graph -9, 3 over 2, because that's a little confusing. So the next number I'm going to graph is -8, 2. Then I'm going to graph -6, 3. Then I'm going to graph -4, 4. And I know we've talked about this before. You don't have to graph every single point. As long as you have enough points that it looks good, you're okay. So that's why I'm skipping these ones that have like weird y values. I don't want to graph them. So I'm going to graph -2, 5. And now this is the tricky part. I think of the 0 as the fence. So I only want to graph things that are less than 0. That's true. But I really need to include 0, 6. But I don't actually want to include it. I want to graph everything up to 0. So I would really want to graph -1. I would really want to graph -1/2 or -0.1. So the way that I do that is I'm going to end up graphing the 0, but with an open circle. That's going to show me that I'm not including. An open circle means not included. Okay, so let's start graphing this. -10, 1. So that's going to go right here. Then let's graph -8, 2. Then let's graph -6, 3. -4, 4. And -2, 5. Okay, and again, I do want to graph 0, 6, but I want to do it as an open circle. So all these other ones are closed. 0, 6 is going to be an open circle. And 0 is the fence. That's the last number that I'm going to graph. So I'm going to connect them with a line. Okay. So that shows that I'm graphing this line that's 0, well, less than 0. Less than 0. Okay. Let's go to the next one, which I'll do in purple. You don't have to do different colors, but I'm going to do them in different colors just so you can kind of see the two different lines. So this one is 4x plus 1. Okay, let's go to our calculator. We go to the y equals. Let's clear out the 1/2 x plus 6, and let's type in 4x plus 1. I'm going to go to my table, second graph. And remember, I want to graph 0 and greater than 0. So I'm going to scroll down until I'm at the 0. So 0, 1, 1, 5, 2, 9. I'm going to stop there because I only gave you a 10 by 10 graph. If I had given you a bigger graph, we could graph more points. We could graph 3, 13, which is the next point, but we just don't have the room on our graph paper right here. So let's graph this. This shouldn't be too bad. 0, 1. Okay, and I'm going to do a closed circle at 0 because I'm including 0. The blue one that I graphed in blue doesn't include 0, so it's an open circle. Open circle means not included. Closed circles mean included. So I'm going to graph 1, 5. And I'm going to graph 2, 9. And then I'm going to make an arrow. In this case, I'm going greater than 1, so my arrow points to the right. So the blue one, my arrow pointed to the left because I was less than 0. Less than means I'm going to the left. And the purple one that I graphed, my arrow is going to the right of it, to the right of the line, because I'm graphing anything greater than 0. Okay, that's it. So again, make sure that you submit this.